Highlights of the news today: spookily the 31st of October or Hallows Eve 2014. Royal British Legion cadet threatened to be shot by Taliban for selling Remembrance Sunday poppies in Derbyshire. Child sexual exploitation a real and constant threat, says Dorset Crime Commissioner. Denmark: Muslims beat man with a bottle for calling Islam violent. Sweden: Socialists want to seize private homes of Swedish citizens and give them to the Muslim immigrants. Iran: amputating limbs, burning political opponents. World Health Organization: 1 in 3 Somalis are insane. And Canada: shut down all mosques, says former Heroville councillor. Thought for the day: I am spookily offended. And finally, the demons and the genie. Now, before the news, I would like to thank all our listeners who are still supporting the World at 8 on the reduced times of Monday and Fridays through YouTube, Radio Britain Online, Nick Griffin's tweet and some Facebook accounts. The one thing that we miss at Radio Britain are the comments that came in through the BNP website, which prior to being monitored the last few weeks were all read and all appreciated, but are no more. We need comments to improve or change, and if you still want to make them, please email them to lynmozar@radiobritainonline.info. Give us 12 hours to install, please. Then at least you know we're taking note of your feedback. We also welcome back Imna Kafar, who has been unwell for some time but is now back better than ever. Welcome back, Imna Kafar. UK News. Royal British Legion cadet threatened to be shot by Taliban for selling Remembrance Sunday poppies in Derbyshire. A teenage army cadet was threatened by a man shouting anti-military abuse while selling poppies in Belper. The cadet, who was helping to raise money for the Royal British Legion in the run-up to Remembrance Sunday, was the victim of a threatening remark, branded by police as appallingly bad taste. The man is reported to have said to the boy, aged between 15 and 18, "If you carry on like that you'll be shot by the Taliban." World at 8. Would be interesting to know the ethnicity of this idiot, wouldn't it? Of course it would offend someone. Child sexual exploitation a real and constant threat, says Crime Commissioner. Dorset Police has pledged to do all in its power to protect youngsters from the real and constant threat of child sexual exploitation, CSE. More resources have been invested to pursue and prosecute offenders who exploit vulnerable young people. And a raft of measures have been put in place to identify those at risk and prevent them coming to harm. The measures are in response to recommendations from the independent inquiry into CSE in Rotherham. The inquiry examined how authorities had failed to act despite widespread abuse over nearly 2 decades. Dorset's Police and Crime Commissioner Martin Underhill said, "Dorset may be one of the safest places to live in the country, but nowhere is unaffected by a constant threat of child sexual exploitation. CSE is a toxic cancer that spreads throughout the fabric of society, and we must do all we can to stamp it out." Recent studies in Dorset have revealed a number of children deemed to be at high risk. Children who are regularly reported missing are said to be in danger, and controlled drugs are believed to be a factor in 8 out of 10 cases. World at 8. Stop immigration from Muslim countries and start deporting simples. European News. Denmark: Muslims beat man with a bottle for calling Islam violent. Friday night, B was sitting in his garage in the city of Randers with a friend. The garage is used as a smoking room and they were also drinking a few beers. 3 Chechen asylum seekers aged 20 to 30 passed by and the Danes offered them a beer and a cigarette. 2 of them disappeared for a moment and B talked to the third in English. They talked about the reasons for their flight to Denmark. B said frankly that he believed that Islam was evil and violent. When the other 2 came back, the Chechen told his 2 friends about this, after which one of the Chechens went crazy with a bottle while shouting, "So you hate Islam." B was beaten twice in the head with a full bottle and had to have 9 stitches. His friend got similar treatment. Both were kicked while they were on the ground. World at 8. Well, finally someone reported a Muslim on non-Muslim crime and the world has not ended. It seems just too wonderful for these peace-loving Muslims to glass guys. You couldn't make it up, could you? Sweden: Socialists want to seize private homes of Swedish citizens and give them to Muslim immigrants. It's not enough that the Swedes who live in rental units are thrown out of their homes to make way for Muslim immigrants, according to Anders Wilhelmsson, who is a social worker in the Department for Educational and Social Financial Assistance. In a letter to the municipal government he writes that the municipality should go a step further and use the right to expropriate to seize primary single-family homes and condominiums owned by Swedes. The homes the municipality must then give to refugees, he says. The whole community should join in solidarity to give received refugees housing and integration, the letter said. Williamson said that something radically must be done if Halmstad municipality shall be able to provide homes for the 450 new Muslim refugees plus their families who are on their way to Sweden. Voluntary is best, but something radical is needed. It says in the Constitution that if expropriation may take place if it is for the public good, and I think housing and integration for these people is more important than taking land to build roads, Williamson says to Hallandposten. World at 8. And it is these same people who ranted over the Nazis chucking out the Jews and giving their homes to their own members. Pot calling, anyone? World news. Iran amputating limbs, burning political opponents. Iran executed a record-shattering 411 citizens in the first half of 2014 and a total of 852 people in the last 15 months, including at least 8 juveniles, according to a new United Nations report that was introduced to the organisation's General Assembly. In addition to a surge in state-sanctioned killings that a UN official referred to as shocking, Iran continues to torture imprisoned individuals using techniques such as amputation, electroshock, flogging and burnings, according to the report, which details human rights in the Islamic Republic. World at 8. But the Quran allows it, in the name of the Prophet, doesn't it? This is the product of an Islamic state. Sheer butchery. World Health Organization, 1 in 3 Somalis are insane. Do we really need more Somali immigration? Aside from incidents like Westgate in which Somali terrorists kill non-Muslims, according to the World Health Organization, most of the country is insane. That may explain some things. Somalia has one of the world's highest rates of mental illness, with 1 in 3 people affected, according to the World Health Organization. The cause is Somali Muslim violence and drugs. World at 8, and we let 'em in, and let 'em breed. Madness. Canada shut down all mosques, says former Harrowville councillor. One of the authors of Harrowville's Code of Conduct in 2007 is calling for all mosques across the country to be closed temporarily in reaction to the killings of 2 Canadian Forces members in separate incidents in Ottawa and Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu last week. In an interview with the French-language TVA network, André Drouin, a councillor in the Mauritius town at the time, noticed that both attackers from last week were recent converts to Islam. When we see what's common with these 2 people, and that there are others across the country, they all passed through mosques, he said. Maybe there's a problem with mosques. You don't need to be a genius to think of that. Among other things, the Harrowville Code of Conduct forbade the stoning of women and burning them with acid. The document earned worldwide notoriety and helped kickstart the debate in Quebec on the reasonable accommodation of ethnic and religious minorities and led to the creation of the Bouchard-Taylor Commission to study the issue. World at 8. We need these guidelines over here and in Europe, not the coddling and silence we allow to take place. Thought for the day. I am spookily offended. I realise today just how offended I am and the way our government and our country are going and yet still ignoring the huge pink elephants in the room. Now who will care over my offendedness? No one. Who wants to see an over-the-hill female carrying so many sodding banners she can hardly walk? I need at least 1,000 people to carry a banner each. I am so mortally offended. And today being the raising of the dead and the even deader sitting in Parliament and pontificating on exactly how little they can do to rock the already very unstable political boat, here goes a multiplicity of offendedness from yours truly. I'm offended that all the whines about getting money for the Ebola crisis are centred around giving millions to people in a country which might soon all be dead and still haven't yet learnt to burn their diseased departed. I'm offended that no real money is being put into strengthening our borders to prevent Ebola coming into this country. In fact, it is rarely talked about now in the media, just the huge increase in previously unreported cases in Sierra Leone. We will all be mortally offended if it is already here and being hushed up. I'm offended that immigration has just been taken off the vile racists list to be talked about, muted upon, and nothing actually done about it. Too many years too late. I'm offended that a French Mayoress can speak to an Indian immigrant MP over here about the problems that were originally caused by his parents being allowed into the UK in the first place. I'm offended that the French, after conniving to build the open walkway into the UK, want us to pay money to feed and clothe the bloody immigrants in Calais. I'm offended that the UN has the nerve to criticise us in the UK for being racist and sexist and yet funds other countries for far worse crimes. I'm offended that our government still pays billions of pounds to really nasty foreign governments abroad and still takes in millions of their people every day to outbreed us. I am offended that in the Greater Manchester area exploiting of children is considered the new norm. It's been a norm up north for the last 40 years and counting. It has become endemic and is still spreading from the Islamic communities, unknown and unsung. I'm offended that the media are too afraid to be honest, as are the police, that a high percentage of the perpetrators of this disgusting practice are Muslims, not Asians, Muslims. I am offended that Nazir Afzal pontificates to the media and never mentions his own community's involvement in many of these crimes. I am offended that it is always vulnerable young girls who are being targeted. Get real. What would a normal, healthy, upper-class schoolgirl do with a young Muslim oik? They would never even meet. Of course they pick their market from the poor and the disenfranchised. I am offended that we in the UK have not run off most of these Islamic criminals and their families by now. If we had a stronger immigration policy in this country many years ago, we would not have underage sexual grooming at all. I'm offended that by the time the public are allowed to see the light of day on the many new problems and expenses we have allowed to incur in the UK today due to massive immigration, it'll be too late to do anything about it but pay up and sacrifice our own future for strangers. I'm offended that the EU has the bloody nerve to charge us for their ruination of our own country, farming, fishing and industries, and still expect us to take in millions of migrants both from Europe and the Third World via Europe and pay for them as well. I'm offended that we do not have a proper border control force that actually works to control the borders. The hint is in the name. I'm offended that Poppy Day niqabs being invented by a lot of money-making Muslims. Poppy Day has nothing to do with them and they shouldn't be here. I'm offended as the left-wing Marxist ethos in this country. Poppy tributes are not UKIP memorials. UKIP is not patriotic in any sense, despite all the media hype. I'm offended that whatever Muslims do or adopt is given airtime and published. We need to get our priorities right, as they have in other countries. I'm offended that we do not have soldiers and guns on our borders with Europe. This is what they need in Calais, guns and dogs, not soup kitchens and sympathy. I'm offended because normal UK charities are stopped from collecting on the streets, and that is the best way to get funds for charities which the government refuses to support while supporting the Fishing for Muslim Women's efforts and worse. I'm offended because so many nationalists tell us to stop supporting the RSPCA as they do not take up the anti-halal cudgels. But if we, the people and our government, do not forbid or boycott halal outlets, then why expect an animal charity to do so that doesn't get any benefits from the establishment or the media? I'm offended that British people do not appear to care for their own and appear to care more for complete strangers who are hell-bent on getting rid of us as soon as possible. Whether that be by outbreeding or outvoting us, it matters not. The result is just the same. I am offended that the apparent number of British jobless homes has reduced, but of course this is only in relation to the number of actual figures of no more British homes are being occupied by English British. And migrants can always find cheap work or work for their ethnic brothers. So these stats are rubbish propaganda. I'm offended the fact that teachers are being told to say gay more often in schools and prevent homophobic bullying. A wonderful Marxist agenda this, and the only thing you would find not applicable in the many Islamic schools we pay for. Gay is not an alternative lifestyle choice for very young children. It is something which shouldn't be punished, but should not be encouraged. We are put on this earth to breed, nothing else. Get real. Other countries don't advocate this form of teaching, why should we? I am offended that there is a fuss about the taking down of the memorial in Afghanistan. Get over it. This memorial would have become the centre stone of pro-Taliban support and been defiled. As soon as we go, I give Afghanistan 2 years before it's totally Islamic State, as indeed it was before, during and after the British colonisation of India. Get real, some countries, especially Islamic-based countries, do not deserve democracy just because we feel that they should. Leave well alone and stop backing minor wars in these places. They existed well before we came out of the trees with woad. Have you got the message yet? I'm offended that we still in this country, almost alone in Europe, buy and import foreign crap that we used to make ourselves. What happened to the nation of shopkeepers? I'll tell you, they became foreigners in that foreign nation of shopkeepers. Poor old Nappy would turn in his grave. I'm offended by the fact that despite our deficits in the financial world, we are still sending trillions of pounds abroad to countries that do not need it and don't deserve it. And yet councils are still charging by the bedroom and targeting people who can ill afford to lose space or money. I'm offended by the fact that a worry of barrow boys running Tesco's were free to keep figures high to ensure their bonuses and will just get suspended with no doubt a very good payoff. This is a form of insider trading and should be punished by law, as it affects every single man, woman and child in this country. I am offended by pro-Zionist and anti-Nazi propaganda non-stop. I'm sick of the Holocaust, the Third Reich and Hitler, Germany, the survivors, the empathy, the sympathy, the hatred for National Socialism as opposed to a hatred of Marxism, Pol Pot, Stalin, the Castro brothers, the Saudis, Islam, Coudenhove-Kalergi, the EU, UN and NATO, diversity, multiculturalism, the mud culture and people who love all humans and hate all animals. I am offended at the news reporting of the closure of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. We had all the bescarfed Arab youths, the pictures of general wailing and then just the end reason. A Jew, Yehuda Glick, who had been campaigning for free access to the Mount for Jews, was shot and in hospital. The Ute who shot him was rightly killed, and that is the reason for the renting of clothes. An attack by a Palestinian jihadi on a Jewish protester. Get over it. It offends me that me and subsequent generations will have to say goodbye to familial respect, public respect, good free healthcare, a green and once pleasant land, totally English high streets, decent restaurants where you can read the menu and trust the kitchens without taking out a second mortgage, housing available to all who could pay or needed it if not, good general education for our young, jobs open to experience, not just a second-rate pre-polytechnic university, a none-ageist policy, governments who at least tried to care at the expense of the rest of the world and didn't care what the sodding EU said anyway, and collecting the Robinson gollywog didn't land you in jail for a racist hate crime. But what offends me on a grand and spooky scale is the gradual and thorough decimation of being English, or what passes for it nowadays. People, our people, are ashamed of being English and grovel and crawl to a new culture which in my dear mother's words is not fit to polish the floor, of minor and corrupt celebs which, taken in their entirety, are not fit for purpose, and which no child or teenager should hold up as an aim in life or lifestyle. These people are like UKIP products of an alternative lifestyle and thinking pattern, all supposed to be new, but in truth as old as time, divide and conquer, defile and corrupt. Mend something that was not broken to begin with, but sure as hell is broken now. I'm offended that I have to miss Jim Davison and Chalky, whereas I wouldn't miss their real counterparts should they ever depart this land. And I'm offended, deeply and forever, that we, the English Brits, have no say in our country or its future at all, and this has all been done within the plan, and all because this island and we deserve it. You have to ask yourself, do we really deserve this? And finally, 3 demons were walking through the wood until they came across a river. Unfortunately, they were the types of demons that will die and evaporate if they touch water. They looked around trying to figure out how to cross until one of them saw a lamp. They picked it up and rubbed and a genie popped out saying, "You have released me from the lamp. I will grant you 3 wishes." The first demon thought for a moment and said, "I wish I was smart enough to figure out how to cross this bridge." So the genie made him smarter. The demon built a rough raft and set sail across the river. But the raft fell apart and he evaporated as he touched the water. So the second demon said, "I wish I was smarter than that demon so I could figure out a better way to cross the bridge." So the genie granted his wish. The second demon built a catapult, making sure to double check the logistics and mathematics so that he'd clear the river. He launched himself but fell short and evaporated when he touched the water. The third demon gulped and quickly said to the genie, "I wish that I was smart enough to find a simple and surefire way to cross the river." So the genie turned the demon into an angel who walked across the bridge. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I and the team at World at 8 and Radio Britain wish you all a very happy and a very safe weekend. Remember to take care of your children tonight and make sure they are safe, and get out the sweeties for a happy Halloween. Also, in case idiots go mad with fireworks, keep your pet indoors. I've just parked my broomstick, so I'll now whiz off.